Enough is enough. That was the refrain chanted over and over by thousands of demonstrators who gathered to protest gun violence in America. Enough is enough. We need to do something about the violence that is plaguing our nation and our world. Enough is enough. The world would be a better off place if there were fewer weapons that could kill, maim, destroy, and debilitate. Enough is enough. On March 24th, 2018, more than 200,000 young people took the time to march on Washington, D.C. and other cities across the country to demand that their concerns about gun violence be heard. More power to them. I'm all for activism, especially if it motivates people who have been sitting silently on the sidelines for too long to get up and try to reclaim control over a runaway government. Curiously, however, although these young activists were very vocal in calling for gun control legislation that requires stricter background checks and limits the kinds of weapons being bought and sold by members of the public, they were remarkably silent about the gun violence perpetrated by their own government. Why is no one taking aim at the U.S. government as the greatest purveyor of violence in American society and around the world? As journalist Celisa Selikow recognizes, and I'm quoting here, it's often the case that police shooting incidences where law enforcement officers pull the trigger on civilians are left out of the conversation on gun violence. But a police officer shooting a civilian counts as gun violence. Every time an officer uses a gun against an innocent or unarmed person, it contributes to the culture of gun violence in this country. End of quote. This systemic violence perpetrated by agents of the government has done more collective harm to the American people and our civil liberties than any single act of terror or mass shooting. Violence has become our government's calling card, starting at the top and trickling down from more than 80,000 SWAT team raids carried out every year on unsuspecting Americans by heavily armed, black-garbed commandos and the increasingly rapid militarization of local police forces across America to drone killings used to target insurgents. Yes, enough is enough. The government even exports violence worldwide, with weapons being America's most profitable export, believe it or not. Indeed, the day before thousands of demonstrators descended on Washington, D.C. to protest mass shootings, such as the one that took place at Stoneman Douglas High School, President Trump signed into law a colossal $1.3 trillion spending bill that gives the military the biggest boost in spending in more than a decade. Ironic, isn't it? Here we have thousands of passionate protesters raging, crying, and shouting about the need to restrict average Americans from being able to purchase and own military-style weapons. All the while, the American government, the same government under Trump, Obama, Bush, Clinton, and beyond that, continues to act as a shield and a shield for the military-industrial complex, embarks on a taxpayer-funded death march that will put even more guns into circulation, and no one says a thing about it. Why is that? Why does the government get a free pass? With more than $700 billion earmarked for the military, including $144 billion for new military equipment, you can expect a whole lot more endless wars, drone strikes, bombing campaigns, civilian deaths, costly military installations, and fat paychecks for private military contractors who know exactly how to inflate invoices and take the American taxpayers for a ride. Yes, enough is enough. Find out more on this week's edition of Battlefield America.